Hello, everybody. This is Chris, and this is my channel, Barn on 11970. As always, I appreciate you guys and gals out there who want to listen to what I have to say. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about the minimum wage, and I've seen a lot of comments about it, and I understand there's a lot of frustration with people, and they'll say, what are people going to do to survive? And that's a very good question. The problem is, if you only can get, and your family can only get minimum wage jobs to survive, that's not going to help your family because if you're working for an entry level position, I mean, you're not going to be working for Forbes unless you're going to be sweeping up the floors or cleaning up the bathrooms. Um, the best thing, first of all, I'd recommend is stay away from minimum, wage jobs because of the fact that they are most likely geared towards entry level positions. Now, somebody that subscribes to me made a great comment and I want to read this. So I'm going to do a screen share really quick because people may not think about these things. So let me first go to the comment. And this is from Positive Being, and it was regarding my video that says how raising the minimum wage will actually hurt people. So let me just make sure the screen share is working. Okay, it is. Okay, so the question that they write is another great video, thank you. So pretty much if they raise the minimum wage, then hypothetically entry-level workers would still be making minimum wage. It would still become a struggle for most, and even worse, the jobs would be cut. Now, one of the things you have to understand is the people that make minimum wage, they're going to feel that if they get a raise, they're going to feel really good about it. But what's going to happen is they're going to, like I said in the other video, not only, and there's going to add a couple extra things, not only are they going to fire employees because they will not be able to pay the same amount of people that much more money and keep the costs of your items relatively low, they're not going to be hiring as many people. So you're going to, if you're a minimum wage worker, all of a sudden your work is going to become almost twice as hard because they're going to have to let people go or they're going to have to stop hiring, which means the people that are working in those positions that are used to having other people help with the jobs is now going to put more burden on you for that little amount. So regardless of the fact that they take out the taxes and everything else, but also keep this in mind. If you do not make minimum wage, companies, if they make a law that says every business in the United States corporation has to go to $15 an hour, that means you are going to see massive increases in prices all over. Which means if you don't make minimum wage at your job, you're basically being punished because you're going to make the same amount. Let's say the minimum is 15. Let's say you're at a job where you make $18 an hour. So you're not going to get any raise at all. And yet products that you are used to buying at a certain price are now going to increase to compensate for all the millions of people that are in entry-level jobs, or let's just say hundreds of thousands of people in entry-level jobs that force the companies to raise prices. So if you see any benefit, it's only going to be for people that make minimum wage. So if you're used to spending $200 a week in grocery bills, and you don't get an increase in your wages because you made, let's say they raise it to 15 and you make $15.10 an hour already. Well, you're already at the minimum wage, so you're not going to get an increase. So now let's say all of a sudden all the products you buy, because now they have to pay their employees more, your $200 a week grocery bill is now $250 a week. So now there's more of a burden on people that do not make the minimum wage. So the reality is it is going to make you suffer more. But they don't want to talk about that. They just want to say, oh, you got to get your fair share. And I always find it ironic that the people that say you got to get your fair share are all multimillionaires. They don't work for entry-level positions. They don't really care. What they want is ways to sneak in more tax revenue so they could profit off of you. And they use your emotion. So yes, when you look at it from a person that makes $7 an hour, you would love to double your salary to $15 an hour. I'm sure about that. But you don't factor in all the other things. You don't factor in the fact that they're going to take more taxes out of your paycheck. They're going to print more money, which is going to create more of a deficit for our country. Products are going to become more expensive all across the board because every company now will be forced to have to pay double what they're paying, and they're not going to absorb those prices. They're going to have to let employees go, or at the very least, slow down their hiring, which means those entry-level people that are cheering and waving those flags saying, oh, I got that extra amount of money, will now have to work probably 25, 30% harder. And you know how people don't like to do extra work. So it sounds good on paper. The politicians always like to spin things in a positive way. But if you look at the reality of this, everybody is going to end up suffering. So if you make more than the minimum wage, get ready for all of the things that you're used to buying more expensive. So everybody that doesn't make minimum wage will be punished. And there are a lot more people that go above the minimum wage than below it. And if you're trying to support a family, if you have a family of 4, you have a husband and wife, let's just assume on average, I'm not going to just go into all hypothetical situations, and have 2 kids, and you have a house and 2 cars. If you are trying to get by minimum wage, you are not going to survive, even at $15 an hour. It's just not going to happen. So you have Obamacare, which limits the amount of hours that a company is going to hire you. Because if you get a certain amount of employees working a certain amount of hours, then they're required to automatically have to put everybody on this Obamacare, which will bankrupt companies. Why do you see so many different companies leaving the United States and going to places like Mexico and China and all around the world? Because number one, with these lovely free trade agreements that we have, they don't have to pay the same taxes that we do, so we can't compete. They don't have to worry about things like Obamacare. So when you get even people like Bernie Sanders saying, you know, we have to make these corporations pay their fair share of taxes. Well, if their businesses are located overseas where the tax revenues don't apply, and they take over their money and put them in like Swiss bank accounts or offshore accounts, the tax companies cannot take that money. Businesses are not stupid. Big businesses know how to work the system. They've spent millions of dollars paying off enough politicians to do it. And that's why I think even with this whole election thing, why people are getting so frustrated with the same old, same old. We're getting a bunch of multimillionaires telling us, the people that are struggling, that they understand. They understand how to trick people. They understand to tell them what you want to hear. They understand that they don't have to give you all the facts because they know you won't listen to them. So I understand, but videos like this are not going to be very popular because it's going to go against all that excitement of getting that extra income coming in. But they're going to take that much more out from you. So more people will be punished by this than rewarded because of all the things they're going to do to make up for it. Because you have to think of it from a business person's point of view. If you are running a large chain throughout the United States where you have thousands of stores, and then all of a sudden you're going from paying your salaries of $7, let's say the average minimum wage is like $7.50, and you have tens of thousands of employees, and now thanks to a law, you have to pay them all double. They are either going to let people go, they're going to stop hiring, or they're going to raise the prices. So if you don't make minimum wage, get ready for all the things that you are used to spending a certain amount of money on being a lot more expensive. But you won't see that right away. And by the time you see it, they've already put the law into effect. Those other people have had so many other distractions, you won't even think about it, and you'll have one more thing to complain about. So you got to think past what they're trying to tell you. If they're trying to tell you everything's going to be, sunshine and rainbows, question it and look into it. Unless, of course, you think politicians are totally honest and straightforward. And I have yet to see any of them that have kept their track records. How many times do we have to continue to listen to their rhetoric and keep waving our flags? I mean, I just don't understand how the masses out there can't get these things. I mean, if you want to wish for only the positive parts of a situation, you're just never going to get it. So I'm not trying to rain on people's parades and trying to make them feel like there's no hope. I'm just trying to say, in a corrupt system, you can't have, even look at religion. If you think of like how the devil is, he's one of the biggest liars in the history of the Bible. and he'll promise you everything in the world. I mean, how many movies have you seen where somebody makes a deal with the devil and they say, oh, you can have whatever wishes, whatever grants you want, and everything doesn't work out the way you think? That's what politicians are. They tell you what you want to hear. They'll only talk about a certain part of a problem. And by the time you realize the rest, it's already set in place and there's nothing you can do. Remember how many thousands of people waved their flags about the creation of the Patriot Act. And now it's to the point where we just joke around and think, oh, it's no big deal that every conversation, every email, everything that you do on a computer is being recorded and listened to, or at least has the potential to be listened to. And we just go around like, oh, well, it is what it is. We gotta make a stand. I know everybody wants the sunshine and rainbows. I wish I could have that too. My life would be so much easier if everything was going great. I mean, how many years have I been talking about the fact that the political system is manipulated and the media is manipulated and got so attacked for it? And yet now you're even getting people like Donald Trump saying out in the public that the media is rigged and the political system is rigged. Who else has to say it before people start to get it? So this whole minimum wage thing, I can understand where people are coming from, but I hate to say it, and it may sound cruel, but minimum wage positions are for entry levels. They're not supposed to be a job you take to take care of your family. So if you need to go back to school or get a trade or come up with an idea, there's always a way to improve your income. I went to high school and that's it. I went to college I went to Stonianta, as we call it, but it was Oneonta. I went for a semester and realized it wasn't for me because I knew if I was going to survive in this world, at least from my perspective, I would have had to make my own career choice in the sense of being my own boss. I wasn't going to do the 9 to 5 thing. It just wasn't for me. So there is always a way. You just have to be motivated. You have to use your brain. You have to come up with ideas. I mean, one of the things I do is I sell organic soaps and organic deodorants and these Orgon pyramids that some people just seem to hate for some reason, like I put a gun to people's head. But that's extra income that I could make. You could turn around and rake people's leaves if you have to, or find cans and turn them in for money, or come up with an artistic talent. There's always a way. Don't get stuck with this minimum wage thing. It's just frustrating to see that because, they're going to keep lying to you. They're going to give you partial truths and you're going to wave your flags and not even the people that listen to me, but I'm talking about the average person out there. You have to spread this information. They're not handing you the goose that lays the golden egg. And remember, if you ever hear about that story about the man with the Midas touch, and I'm not talking about the muffler company. I'm talking about the person that whatever he touched turned to gold. Well, if you were told you have a power that whatever you touch turns to gold, you'd think that's great. It's like, oh, I could touch this pencil. Now it's 24 karat gold. I could touch this spoon or fork. It's now gold. But then all of a sudden, if you go to hug your loved one, all of a sudden they turn to gold. You start to realize that is it a actual curse instead of a blessing? So just be careful. Obviously, there are going to be things that I might get wrong or not see in the right way. I trust my instincts and I'm going to stick with them, even if it's not the most popular or people can come up with numbers to say I'm wrong. If I believe that there's something to it, then I trust my instincts and I will at least be able to say I stood up for what I believe in, even if I was wrong. And that's going to happen in life. But you got to do what you feel is not only right for yourself, but what is going to be hopefully right for everybody. Because this minimum wage thing, mark my words, it may take a year or two before people feel it, but you're going to see it because companies will try and hold off on that as much as they can. And they'll wait a little while and do little increases here and there so you don't really pay attention to it. But watch somebody out there who has the time and patience. Once that is implemented, if it is implemented, do a chart of how expensive things get within a 2-year period, and you will see a very interesting increase. So as you could see, and I'll put this back, the chart here, one of the charts here, I want to actually See if I can reverse it because it's backwards for me. Let me just look at something really quick. It's hard to do this when it's backwards. All right, there we go. All employees, and this says, if the minimum wage was increased to $10.10, and they asked surveys, they said, would you let employees go? The dark blue is yes, and the light blue is no. So letting employees go, 19% said yes, so not a major amount. But here's a big one. Reduce future hiring, that's up to 39%. So it's going to be harder for people to find jobs because if they have to pay more, they're not going to add too many other people. Again, they're going to put extra work on the people that are already hired. And here's the biggest one. Raise prices for goods and services. Over 51% of the companies surveyed, and I don't have the list of the surveys, but this is expresspros.com/America Employed. 51% said yes, and that's only at $10.10. They're talking about raising it to 15. So you know these numbers are going to be a lot higher. So you have to think in a bigger picture. Otherwise, you're just going to be fooled every time. They're going to tell you the little parts that you need to hear. They're going to stay away from the other stuff because they're going to know most people aren't going to check it because they want to be willfully ignorant. And I'm talking about the masses. And then these things are going to be out of control. And by the time you realize it, it's already too late. So hopefully people will be a little bit more wise and spread this information because it is important. Because like I said, if you make above the minimum wage, you're going to be punished. You're not going to get a dime in increase. You're probably going to have to work harder because they're going to let people go or not hire the extra people you might need. And you're going to have to pay more for your products. You're not going to like that. But if you ignore this stuff, that's exactly what's going to happen. So I hate the I told you so moments, but there will be a time I would be able to say that. And I hope I don't have to if people step in and actually question these politicians and say, wait a minute, it's nice that you want to raise it to 15, but what about this, this, and this? See if they dodge those questions. Because the media will never ask them. So it's up to us. And I hope somebody does. So thanks for watching. Thank you always for listening to what I have to say. Always appreciate your comments. If you want to subscribe, please do. And I hope you all have a great day.